and but the way I would describe that to a political science student, I bring out terms like the Overton window or asymmetrical polarization and stuff like that, and that's all describing those are all like really technical ways to describe what everyday people have seen is just this constant rightward shift in American politics over the past 30, 40 years. The way to get around it is to at first kind of dumb it down, but then also give them the on-ramps to those lessons. I'm not going to tell them all about all the details on all those things, just the parts they need to understand. Hopefully they find it interesting and they'll go look into some of the resources I provide them on that stuff. But I give them enough information so that they have an operational understanding of how these things work, not necessarily a detailed understanding. Because if you go too into the details, too into the weeds, you're going to turn people off. And the reality is I didn't learn everything I know in 1 hour or one training or one session. It's an ongoing and building practice. And so you really need, those of us who are privileged to be in a position to be educators on this stuff, need to first acknowledge that privilege. Second, make sure that we're starting with an easy on-ramp up to where we're at. And the way to do that is to be approachable, to be understanding of their obstacles, and make sure that you're not throwing around a lot of acronyms. It's about accessible language, essentially, is what I'm trying to get at.
And that's been a conversation that I've definitely heard. There's a podcast that I've become a really big fan of called the Find Out Podcast, as in F around and find out. And it's a bunch of guys who were involved in the White Dudes for Harris movement last year. And I was closely involved in that movement as well as the president of Students for Harris Walls at MSU Denver. And they're talking basically along the same lines of saying, if we want to reach, the whole reason that they put that podcast together was because they're we're a bunch of straight white dudes who need to bring the straight white dudes away from the conservative side of things and away from the Republican Party and make them see that they are actually needed on the left and on the progressive side of things. So how do we do that? You don't be a scold, you check your biases, and you don't go into it being a total wonk. He and I can talk at a certain frequency all day long. Or I used your pronouns wrong, I'm sorry. Chris and I can talk at a certain frequency and a certain level all day long because we operate at this level and we are in this world. We have to reconsider when we're talking to the average person who is not as actively engaged in politics as we are. And it's like I said during the panel, growing up in West Arvada, growing up in a rural area, I know that I actually worked on the campaign here in Arvada for the mayoral race here in 2023. I helped get Lauren Simpson elected. I got old white Republican men to vote for her. And the way that I did that was by getting her to actually come to their houses and meet with them and do, little canvassing stints around my neighborhood and around my community. And they said, of all of the years that I have voted and I have been registered as a Republican and I have done this and that and whatever, I have never actually had a politician actually come to my house, have coffee with me, want to get to know me, want to hear from me. I will vote for her just on the basis that she did something that you convinced her to do something that no one else has ever done. These are not, like I said, do not just make the assumption that people in red areas and rural areas are these backwards, uneducated, closed-minded people. These are my people. These are my neighbors. These are dear-hearted, gentle people who are being severely underestimated in what they understand and what they are willing to go along with and what they are and the people that they are able to work hand in hand with. And they are being taken advantage of by the Republican Party, just like young, angry white men are being taken advantage of by the conservative movements that have been started by people like Charlie Kirk. So that is the thing that you can do, is you have to keep yourself in check and hope that you can create amity and find that you have more in common with them and show them that they have more in common with you and vice versa than is assumed on face.